that cool little voice thing. I didn't need it. I've made my decision. I am going to glorify Him. I'm going to do what I came to do. He says, now is the time for judgment on this world. Now the prince of this world will be driven out. But I, when I am lifted up from the earth, I want you to skip that next part. Go to verse 33. He said this to show the kind of death He was going to die. When He's lifted up on the cross, when I am lifted up on the cross, will draw all men to myself. Have we changed subjects since the Greeks came to speak to Him? No. This is a reply to the request that non-Jewish people want to meet Jesus. He says, I am going to draw men from all nations. All men. All mankind. All of mankind. When I am lifted up, when I am put on that cross, I am going to draw everybody to myself. Is this important for John's original hearers? Yeah. Yeah, it is. There's something about the problem that they have that excludes somebody. Now, we know that they're in Asia Minor. We know that they are dealing with the same things that Paul dealt with in a lot of his letters. That they were telling the Gentile people, it's fine that you become Christians, but you also have to become Jewish. And they needed to hear that Jesus had no such plans. That Jesus, before He died, said, I'm going to draw all nations, all mankind to me. Now, we're happy about that, I hope. Right? I mean, most of us probably recognize that we don't keep the Jewish law. Right? Most of us recognize that we do Christmas thing instead of Hanukkah. Right? And that Jesus attracted us. That we heard about Jesus being crucified for us, that He drew us to Him. That we came to trust Him. And that we didn't have to become Jewish to become believers. I hope you're happy about that. Maybe you never thought about that. Maybe you've never given that a thought. More likely, you probably think that they have to become like us to become believers. The Jewish people have to become Gentiles to become believers. You ever thought that? They have to give up all that Jewish stuff. And they have to be like us. Because we are the people of God now. You've probably heard that in sermons and lessons. Here's what John wants you to know. Jesus is going to attract all nations, all mankind. All of them. And He knew that. He knew that when He was put up on the cross that He would draw all nations. And it was because that these Gentile peoples, these Greeks, came to speak to Him, it brought this whole dialogue out that we don't have in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Because John's readers needed to hear this. The passage says, then Jesus told them, you're going to have the light for just a little while longer. Oh, I'm sorry. Verse 24. This is great. It's actually 34. If you look at that little tiny number. Verse 34. The crowd spoke up. We have heard from the law that the Christ will remain forever. So how can you say the Son of Man must be lifted up? Who is this Son of Man? A great question, right? We've got the Messiah figured out. We've heard exactly sure where. But I remember saying somebody said something like, the Christ will remain forever, the Son of Man will remain forever. So you got us confused here, Jesus. Straighten us out. In response to that, then Jesus told them, you're going to have the light for just a little while longer. Walk while you have the light, before darkness overtakes you. The man who walks in the dark does not know where he's going, but put your trust in the light while you have it, so that you may become sons of light. When he finished speaking, Jesus left and hid himself from them. We don't really understand this. It doesn't fit into our concept of what we think someone might have possibly said about the Messiah somewhere. Jesus says, you know what? I'm right here with you now. I am the light of the world. Remember that one? It was one of those I am passages we came across in John. I am the light of the world. Right? He says, you got me right now. Just watch me. Watch me. Well, no, Jesus, you're going to have to explain to us, because we got this problem. Because we the law, and the law, and the law, and the law, and you need to, the law, remember? The law. And Jesus says, I'm with you right now. I'm not going to be here very long. Just look to me. This is the same thing. People throwing up religious smoke screens. But Jesus, he doesn't fit the... Jesus says, I raised someone from the dead. I healed a man that was born blind. I healed a man that was paralyzed. And you want to debate about what you might have heard somewhere in the law? Is this fun for you? He says, I'm not going to be around very long. While you have the light with you, why don't you enjoy the light? Not debate with the light. Okay. What do we do with these passages? How do they apply to us? We've done some work trying to figure out how they apply to his original readers, okay? We've acknowledged that we don't think the Jewish Gentile thing is a really big deal. But we still have trouble with all men, don't we? Don't we? We want it to read like Jesus will attract all people like us to him. Jesus will attract people who do the things that we do the way that we do them and say the things the way that we say them to him. Guys, you got to own this one. It is in your sinful nature. It is in my sinful nature. It is in our collective sinful nature, okay? To say that Jesus is really excited about people who are like us. And how's this church going to grow? With people who are like us. Who kind of dress like we dress and kind of make the same amount of money that we make, and who kind of live in the same kind of neighborhoods and drive the same kind of cars, and people who have the same skin color, and people who have the same customs, and people who speak English as their first language. That's who Jesus really wants to draw to him, right? Now, a couple weeks ago, we had some visitors, and they were from a group of people that were looking for a place to rent, to worship. Right? Nice guys from the Sudan. Sudanese. If you guys don't know where that is, it's in northern Africa. Mostly Muslim. Right? And they told me, now, we worship in Aramaic. That doesn't make us feel very comfortable, does it?